For decades, it's been the engine of India's middle-class dreams, a story of stability, growth, and global respect. But lately, there's this really unsettling question that started popping up everywhere. Is this the end of the Indian IT industry as we know it? So let's get into it and unpack what's really going on. The whole story really kicks off with a tremor, a jolt to a sector that we've all come to associate with lifelong jobs and steady growth. For anyone who's been watching the industry, some of the recent news has felt like a crack forming in what we all thought was this super solid foundation. And this is where it gets really specific. Just a few days ago, TCS, a true giant of the industry, confirmed it could let go of up to 12,000 people this year. Now, you might think, okay, that's only about 2% of their massive global workforce, but for a company that's famous for its job security, a number like that, it sends absolute shockwaves. And look, this isn't just a TCS story. The signs of a slowdown are literally everywhere you look. You've got HCL giving out these tiny, almost token salary hikes of 1% to 4%. Then there's Infosys, which used to hire by the thousands, onboarding just 210 people last quarter. And industry-wide, revenues are pretty much flat or even falling. Now, you'll hear the usual excuses. AI is taking over, client budgets are tight, there's price pressure. But that's not the whole story, not even close. Because here's the plot twist. This pain isn't just an Indian problem. I mean, look at the big players globally. Microsoft is laying people off in its Azure cloud division. Amazon's AWS, same thing, letting hundreds of people go. So if everyone's feeling the heat, what makes the situation for Indian IT so particularly dangerous? Well, the answer lies in what we can call the Great Squeeze. You see, Indian IT firms are stuck in this really unique battle, getting squeezed from two completely different directions at the exact same time. So on one side, from below, you've got AI and automation just eating up all the simple, repetitive work. And then, from above, you've got this intense pressure from something called Global Capability Centers, or GCCs, and they're snatching up all the high-value projects. Let's start with that first pressure, the one from below. Think about it. Code-generating tools can now spit out boiler code in minutes. AI agents can automate entire workflows. A huge chunk of what a mid-level employee used to do, the stuff they build hours for, can now be done way faster and cheaper by a machine. And that's a direct hit on their traditional business model. But it's that second pressure, the one from above, that might just be the bigger story here. While all the headlines are screaming about layoffs, the clients themselves are quietly expanding these things called Global Capability Centers. So the big question is, what on earth are they?
Okay, so here's the deal with GCSEs. Imagine you're a big multinational company, right? A Fortune 500 firm. Instead of hiring, say, Infosys to do a complex data science project, you just cut out the middleman. You set up your own office in India, hire your own team of engineers directly, and you do all that important work yourself, in-house.
Now, why would they do this? What's the appeal? Well, for these big companies, the upsides are massive. They save a ton of money in the long run. They don't have to deal with delays from outside vendors, and, this is huge, they get to own all the cool tech they built. They keep their data super secure, and let's be real, there's brand appeal. An ID card that says Google on it, that just feels different than one that says TCS, doesn't it? And if you need proof, just look at this chart. It says it all. In the last financial year, the GCC ecosystem in India grew by a staggering 40%. 40%. And the traditional IT service firms, they grew by less than 5%. That's not just a gap, that's a canyon. It tells you exactly where the most valuable work and the big money is going. It's shifting away from the old guard and into these new in-house shops.
So the crucial point here is this. That comfortable middle ground, that sweet spot where Indian IT vendors used to rule, it's basically disappearing. If a global company wants cheap, simple work, they can look to other countries. If they want top-tier, high-control work, they're building a GCC. That space in the middle, it's getting squeezed into nothing.
So all of this pressure is forcing the whole industry into what's basically a crisis of identity. And the wildest part is, this crisis comes from the very thing that made them so successful in the first place. Some critics put it really bluntly. They say that Indian IT companies have basically become just glorified HR firms.
Their real business is just moving people around from one client project to the next. Now, that might sound a bit harsh, but it kind of points to a core problem. See, most of these firms haven't really built products. They've built incredible billing engines. They make money based on how many people they can assign to a project and for how many hours. But here's the problem with that. When a machine can work 24/7 and doesn't send you an invoice, suddenly all those human hours start to look less like an asset and a lot more like a liability.
So, is that it then? Is it all doom and gloom? Is the industry just going to fall off a cliff? Well, not so fast. Let's not write the obituaries just yet, because there is another way forward. And to see what this other path looks like, we can look at a company like Zoho. This firm, based out of Chennai, gives us a sneak peek into what the future could be. They haven't been chasing service contracts. They've been quietly building a whole suite of world-class software products, everything from cloud hosting to CRM tools. And they've done it all on their own terms. Zoho's model is just different. They're not just selling people's time. They're building actual products. They own their own intellectual property. They build tools that solve real problems for businesses, tools that are really hard for anyone else to just copy. And that's how you build real, lasting value. It's how you build what investors call a moat around your business, protecting you from competitors. So here's the choice, laid out plain and simple. On one hand, you have the services model. It can be copied, the profit margins are getting smaller and smaller, and you have almost no power to set your own price. On the other hand, you have the product model. It gives you that moat we talked about. It brings in much higher margins, and if you build something great, you have the power to charge a premium for it, year after year. Now, let's be realistic here. This kind of change is way easier to talk about than it is to actually do. I mean, you can't just flip a switch and turn a 100,000-person services company into a product innovator overnight. It takes a totally different culture, a completely different way of thinking. It is incredibly, incredibly difficult. But here's the thing. In the face of this great squeeze, the real question isn't, is this transition hard? We know it's hard. The real question is, has it become absolutely necessary for survival? If these companies want to stay relevant for the next few decades, they might have to throw out the old playbook. They're going to have to learn how to build value, not just bill for hours. Because if they don't, well, you can be sure someone else will.